Hello, 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 one and all and everyone in between. This is the Hardy Complex, number 8. One place for everything and anything you don't want to see. Hey! Knock it off. I just smacked my hand against a goddamn wall. That was not a good idea, bud. Anyway, welcome to the Hardy Complex. It's the morning of October 1st. The fuck? Oh, come on. You've got to be kidding me. I thought we were in November or December by fucking now. We're in October? Jesus Christ. Who the fuck is playing with time? I want to know. I want to hear him. I want to talk to him. Alright. So we've got a few conversations, I guess, to start. This is mostly going to be an uninvolved podcast. This episode, we don't really have much to talk about. There wasn't anything that was really falling into the deep end for. No albums got released. Not much big happened in the NFL yesterday. And on top of on top of all of that, wrestling was very uneventful. Ring of Honor had their Death by Dishonor pay-per-view, and New Japan had their USA special, but not much else came to it. And I didn't even watch those shows because I was just not feeling wrestling this weekend. But nevertheless, you had your little pieces of news throughout the week. However, there was one piece of news that I've been noticeably absent from discussing. One piece of news that has really taken the United States by fucking storm over the past couple of weeks. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this because my demographic is kind of wide and variant. The amount of 35 to 60-year-olds that watch are the same amount as children under the age of 16, and then there's 17 through 35, I believe, that has the most, and then elders are the least. But when it comes down to it, whatever demographic you fit into, there's something called the Brett Kavanaugh trials or hearings that were going on over the past number of weeks. Gonna be honest, for the first week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, I didn't know what the fuck was going on. I kind of just stayed away from even the idea because I was doing so much else. And then it just kept rapidly firing up in intrigue and interest, and it was all over social media sites and so on and so forth. And I kind of had to put myself into the loop to understand what the fuck was going on, and why everybody was talking about this, what the big deal was, And so I just kind of put everything to the side. I watched a description of the Kavanaugh hearings, and it was not very well informed. However, when it comes down to it, I think that there was a pretty simple answer for what was happening. Not a simple answer for what was happening. Let me rephrase that. There was a simple explanation as to what was going on. It was this guy, Brett Kavanaugh. I believe he was nominated for the Supreme Court, or to become a Supreme Court Justice. I believe it was to fill Scalia's shoes after Scalia passed away, I think 2.5 years ago now. So I guess Trump nominated Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court. I'm not even sure if it was the Supreme Court Justice, but afterwards there were, I guess, a couple of women that had come out against Kavanaugh and had, what do you say? God damn it, I can't wrap my mind around these words. They pretty much called out Brett Kavanaugh for being a scumbag, shithead person. And the main clause for that was a history of him abusing women sexually. And in that case, I guess you can make the case of mentally as well, with the whole aftermath of that being stuck with them. But there were a few women that came forward pretty much calling out Brett Kavanaugh for having sexually harassed them or sexually abused them or whatever it may be. There was one woman that had claimed that Kavanaugh and her were at a party with a number of individuals, and she was drunk, and I guess she had a blindfold on or something like that, and he just stuck his dick in her face or something like that. Whatever. So just things like that, and over the past number of weeks, it's been a case of, here's this guy who has this shit against him, and here are these judges that are meant to use that shit and determine whether or not he should be in the Supreme Court for that, or not for that, but with that, despite that. So I guess over the past number of days, there was a hearing and a trial. I believe some of his accusers stepped forward, and from the clip I saw, he did not make a very good case for himself. There was him being extremely loud and extremely defending of himself, or defensive. That's a better word. Yelling and getting extremely aggravated, extremely quick-tempered as well. His accusers were more calm. I believe there was one in particular, but she was very calm. She was very soft-spoken, soft-worded, so on and so forth. She was straightforward and she was honest. And I guess then the Supreme Court went into a deliberation where they had to vote yes or no to Kavanaugh to bring him into the Supreme Court or not. I think the final vote was like 11-10 or something like that. It was I think it was most likely by one vote, or at least that's what I remember seeing, for Kavanaugh to get in to the Supreme Court. So when it comes down to it, Kavanaugh was voted in to the Supreme Court. They had to delay the trial for a week for whatever reason, and then here we are. Now the overall conversation becomes what happens from here. We've been seeing this for the past year. We've had a number of high-profile individuals get called out for sexual manipulation over the past number of months and the past year, which resulted in the rapid growth of the Me Too movement. It started out with Harvey Weinstein and multiple accusations against him, and it kind of just continued down this rabbit hole to the point where we are at now, where it's kind of like it's become an expected case almost to say, for somebody that's been involved in an industry for so long. Harvey Weinstein was involved in the music and film industry for so long, many years. So when it comes down to it, if you were to see a case of, I'm not going to say anybody in particular has done this. I'm just going to make an example of, if somebody were to accuse Tim Cook, the owner of Apple, or the CEO of Apple, of sexual manipulation, then that would kind of be understandable as to why that happened, or why that you would think that would be a possibility, because he's been that industry for so long, and he's been a mainstay of that industry for so... Knock it off! Fucking long. You never know the fucking aggravation until you go to get something done. And all the shit in the background you have to worry about. Swear to God, it happens again. I'm chucking pillows at him. Fact of the matter is, it comes down to a case where if you find an individual in an industry for so damn long, it's a case of you kind of think of it in the back of your mind like, this isn't too far from the realm of possibility or reality. They've been in the industry for so long, so there's a huge window of time for them to have used their power to manipulate an individual's mind, to kind of steer them on a path they should not be steered on or don't want to be steered on with their power. So it's kind of like an expectation at this point in time for somebody involved in an industry for so long to kind of have to, or that you would expect them to be accused of something like this eventually. Where do I stand on that? That was the question I was asked a year ago, and I'm still asked about it now because I think it's one of the biggest things that the biggest problems that I haven't given my side on, or I haven't given or where I stand on. I haven't really made that clear. I think it's very clear, though, in terms of the overall thing. If you're a very famous person, if you're very high stature, you shouldn't be utilizing that and your power and your recognition and your notoriety to manipulate somebody into doing a sexual act that they wouldn't want to do. I'm sorry, is that just me? Or is it when it comes down to it, when you're a very powerful individual, you should not try to take sexual advantage of somebody? I thought that was a given. Now when it comes down to it, another question I get asked pretty often is, how often do you believe the accusers that are usually involved in the Me Too movement or end up becoming a part of the Me Too movement? And I always kind of answer that question of, I don't believe anyone at the beginning. I don't believe any side at the start of everything, you know? I look at the accuser, and I looked at the accused, and I go, okay, well, there's no report been filed, there was no, there's been no investigation, there's been no claim that has been dug into over and over and over again. So this rate is just he said, she said. And I'm never one to kind of judge something based off of the cover, you know. I don't look at somebody and go, oh, you're black, you must like rap music. Just like I don't go to somebody who is from Georgia and say, oh, you like country music. Or I don't go to somebody from California and say, yeah, you probably grew up under the sun, not in like Minnesota. You know, I don't like to judge by the cover. So when it comes down to it, that's pretty much what it is. It's a cover and a back cover of a book. And before you open the book, you just know that the pages are going to be the little plot points of the story. So I like to kind of open that book and read it about it, you know, for a little bit. Do I think that a shit ton of the accusers have a right to accuse, like they're in the right and they're, you know, telling the truth? Absolutely. But I think there are a number of individuals that also utilize that as a way of damaging someone's career or gaining publicity, and I don't like that. Primarily for the fact that it doesn't really matter whether you... let me rephrase that, because I know people will take that out of context, but it's a point where, in the eyes of the overall people, when the public is the judge, jury, and executioner in their own minds, to them it doesn't matter whether it's a case of you did it or not. What matters is who they believe. And let's be fucking honest, this world are a group of stubborn jack-offs that are just itching for a fight, itching for a conversation, itching for a way to feel important. You know, obviously, because they can't do enough in their lives to feel that themselves. The fact of the matter, though, is they'll see something on the surface and pick sides immediately and stick with that side. And then they'll stick with it through thick and thin, despite the fact that they'll be proved wrong a million times over, no matter what side that they're on. You know, if you're a liberal, you have a million reasons as to why you shouldn't be a liberal. The same thing goes for a conservative. You have a million reasons for why you shouldn't be a conservative. And the same thing goes for every fucking specter of the conversation, because every specter of the conversation has its pros and cons. The fact of the matter, though, is that we are too stubborn to see those pros and cons. The majority of us are too stubborn to see those pros and cons. And we go, I don't... Ed Westwick was accused of raping this woman. And then they never hear about the conversation again. They never hear about the story again. They're all like, oh yeah, Ed Westwick. Yeah, remember when he raped that woman? How are you a fan of him? It's like, well, I haven't heard anything about the conversation yet. You know, he could have raped her. She could be lying about him raping her. You know, it could go either way at this point. And that aggravates me, because that wouldn't happen if people didn't utilize something like the Me Too movement, utilized to help empower people that have been abused like this. You know, I hate when something like that is kind of, oh, how do I say it? I'm losing my train of thought. I don't have my words within me yet. I hate when it's pushed and it's used to, how do you say? I hate when it's used to manipulate a situation in someone's favor, you know? I hate when people go, oh, I'm losing this conversation against this guy. All right, screw it. He raped me. You know, that's not how this world should work. However, when it comes down to the public, it's kind of a case of, oh, she said he raped her, so he raped her. And that's it. And they won't hear anything about it, and they'll be stubborn. And whether he did it or not, the public will always go, yeah, he did it because she accused him of it. And then his career is ruined forever because of something he didn't do. It's like the greatest verbal weapon if you're a celebrity. He or she raped me. That's it. Now they lose millions. You know, now they lose all these endorsements, these job opportunities, so on and so forth, because of whatever reason. And I hate that, because then there are cases in which they actually should be listened to because they're in the right, you know? Everybody that accused Harvey Weinstein, he absolutely should have been accused. He absolutely did every bit of that, and there's been significant evidence to push that forward. So absolutely, every fucking person that has accused Harvey Weinstein should have, because he absolutely did it. And there is that evidence. But then you come across a case in which there are individuals that will see that and use that against somebody else, but it'll only be for publicity, or it'll only be for whatever, you know, to ruin someone's career. And for those people, I hope they do get locked up, and I hope they do get fined, and I do hope their career gets ruined. You know, if you're going to go to an individual, not even high profile, but if you're going to go to an individual and claim that they raped you, or that they did this, that, and the other bullshit, you should absolutely be punished. I don't care if you're a woman trying to accuse somebody that didn't do it or not, and I don't care if you're a woman that's doing it. You should absolutely get punished to the highest extent. You just completely roadblocked and possibly ruined that dude or woman's career. Then you should absolutely go to jail. You should absolutely pay damages. You should absolutely reap the highest fucking punishment, because your jackass self was the one that wanted to use that in your favor, and you got caught, and you got called out on it. So fuck you. Deal with the consequences. Not to mention, you're doing that in this case, but then there are a million other women and a million other guys that are going up to their abusers and accusing them, finally being able to muster up the courage to accuse them of what they did and call them out for what they did. And you're giving their efforts, and you're giving their division, I guess, a bad name because you wanted to ruin somebody else's career for a week or a month or a year. That's horseshit. So I stand on that side. I don't take a side right out of the gate. I wait for the evidence. I wait for the story to unfold, everything to unravel. And I hate the people that will take this kind of the momentum of, oh, everybody rise up and accuse the people that have abused you. And then somebody off to the side of like, oh, well, nobody did, so this guy, yeah! No, it doesn't work like that, and it shouldn't work like that. So that's my little stance. We gotta go to commercial, so Hardy Complex back in 60, back on the podcast.